Hi. So tonight is day 14 already of Sam's Advent calendar. And tonight is a really special one. Tonight is a little bit different. And the reason I'm doing it on here on the Advent calendar is because I strongly believe that there is no child anywhere who would like to see their parent distressed, alone, and really struggling. So, what I would like from tonight's Advent calendar is for people to share it as widely as you possibly can. And tonight, this particular Advent calendar day it's for all parents like me who have lost a baby at any stage of pregnancy. It is for all healthcare professionals who have any contact with parents who go through bereavement, or I'm going to use the term miscarriage and stillbirth. I hate those words. However, I do understand we have to have terminology. And also for any family or friends who have or come across people who, parents, mums, and dads are just as important, who have gone through losing a baby or who are currently facing this. So tonight's Advent calendar is all about support. It's all about support, and it's all about networks and support networks. So I'm going to start. There are three bits to this really, and the first one is about professional support. And I strongly believe I'm not a professional supporter. I'm just a mum who has been there and been through this. But I strongly believe that every bereaved parent who loses a baby at whatever stage of pregnancy, or just before birth or just after birth, and I know there are parents who lose older children, but I can't really talk about that. So I'm talking about losing babies. But basically, I believe that any parent who goes through this should have the option and the opportunity to be able to find specialist professional support, to help them, to support them going through this horrendous journey. I have a great wish, and part of the reason I wrote Dancing in the Wings, which is based on me losing Sam, part of the reason I wrote it is because I have a real hope that every healthcare professional who is within gynae, maternity, obstetrics, or anybody, any healthcare professional, GPs as well, who come into touch with parents going through this, should have firstly awareness training. So they should have an awareness of the journey that a parent faces going through this. And the thing is that I think people forget is that healthcare professionals tend to see parents right at the acute point of loss. But the journey for a bereaved parent and the struggle for a bereaved parent isn't just at that point. It is the run up, it is going through the loss, and it is for many years afterwards, because we don't recover from this. But what we do is, we have to find a way of coping and getting through. So I think that every healthcare professional should have an awareness of the journey that is faced by bereaved parents, because by knowing, I don't expect healthcare professionals to understand, but if you have an awareness, it makes it far easier to develop a management strategy for patients going through this. I mean, when you look at the statistics and you look at things like from Tommy's organisation, 1 in 4 pregnancies are lost in miscarriage in early stages of pregnancy. And that's huge. So the number of people facing this both early on and at a later stage is massive. And so it really, for me, I believe it should be a real priority that there is that awareness training, so that there is a management strategy in place to support parents like me. It took me nearly 3 years to get the right support, and that had a real knock-on effect of how I coped with life. The second thing I believe when it comes to healthcare professionals is that every single healthcare professional should have a toolkit, a tool that will enable them to signpost a bereaved parent to a specialist support network. Now, there are lots of fantastic organisations. We have the national organisations like SANS and like Tommy's, but there are also many, many smaller charities who support people who've gone through early stages of pregnancy loss or have gone through kind of stillbirth as well. And there are lots out there. And I think every healthcare professional who is accessing patients at that kind of pinnacle of loss should have the capability to be able to signpost, whether that's having a small business card with local services on it, so that you have a contact number, so that you have an email address. Don't just give them a website page, because I can tell you that at that point of loss, you do not have the strength to even process information on a website. And to be able to receive a phone number of somebody specialist who can support you is huge. And those two things, I think, is so important, so very, very important. The second part of this is for family and friends of people who have gone through or are going through the loss of a baby. I can tell you it is incredibly difficult for family and friends to know what to say, to know what to do. We as human beings don't cope well with grief. We don't cope well with loss. We don't know what to say. There are no words. And I can guarantee, I can tell you now, there is no manual out there. There is no manual anywhere that tells you what to do. Everybody's first instinct when somebody is in that much pain is you want to make them better. You can't. There isn't a way to make somebody who has lost a baby feel better. But just by putting aside the awkward feeling that you might have of not knowing what to say and spending time with that person, I can tell you that a hug says 1,000 words. Holding someone's hand while they're in such a painful place, it says 1,000,000 words. The fact that you have put aside your own feelings of, I don't know what to say, I feel really awkward, I want to make them feel better, but I can't. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to use words. It's just giving your time, just sitting with somebody and listening, or sitting in silence, or holding their hand, or giving them a hug, or asking them, if they gave their baby a name, or what name did they give them. I can tell you now, my daughter's name is Sam, and she was 1 pound in weight when she was born, and she was 1 foot long. Now, that's normal information for somebody who's giving birth to a living baby, but it's not the kind of thing that you feel comfortable talking about if your baby's no longer with you, if you've lost your baby, if that baby has died. However, that piece of information to me is so precious, and for somebody to ask me about it means so much. It absolutely means so much. And just doing something that recognises that baby that they've carried, or that baby that a dad's partner has carried, it means a massive amount. There's a lady on Twitter who's connected with me recently, and I don't know her name. I'm very sorry. You'll know who you are. But she put out a tweet in response to one of my advent calendars the other night to say that as a result of what I'd written, and I take no credit for this, but as a result of what I'd written, she actually went to see a friend who's lost 2 babies and gave her a present. And the present was stars, I believe, for the babies, in memory of those babies. And that lady's friend broke down and told her it was the best present she'd ever received. And I can absolutely vouch for that. For anybody who gives me something that recognises Sam or any of the babies that I've lost, it means the world to me, because it recognises that those babies existed and that I carried those babies and that I am a mum, which is so precious. So for all the friends, families of people that have bereaved parents, please don't worry about the words that you say. Please don't feel awkward. Putting your awkwardness aside means the world to us. And just giving the time and a hug and holding someone's hand and asking them about their baby and recognising that baby is enough. You can't make us better, but what you can do is help us along the way and help us not feel so alone, because it is such an isolating thing losing a baby. You already have a baby-sized black hole in your life, because from the moment, I always believe that from the moment you know that you're pregnant, you are a parent, whether that's a mum or a dad, and we mustn't forget dads as well. You know, you're a parent from that point. And once that switch is switched on, there is no off switch. You know, you just end up with all the same feelings of being protective and planning the life of that child, you know, right up to the point that they die. And when they die, you can't switch those feelings off. You know, I was so protective as a pregnant mum. When I was pregnant with Sam, gosh, I remember going around the supermarket and I was kind of wrapping my arms around my bump, because terrified and glaring at people who might possibly just run into me with a trolley. Those feelings never go, you know, and you're as protective over your baby's memory as you are over carrying that baby while it's still alive. So that would be my advice to any friends or family of bereaved parents. The third point to this, and I think so very important, is that if you are, like me, a bereaved parent, and you're out there and you are struggling, and I know it doesn't matter what time of the year we struggle, but Christmas is so hard. It's so hard because it's a time for children and it's a time for families. If you're out there and you're struggling and you're on your own, please, please, please connect with somebody. Tell somebody that you're struggling, whether that be, you know, whether that be a specialist organisation, whether that be a friend, and just telling them that you need some support, just using those words, even if you don't feel comfortable doing that, and you connect to somebody on social media and they can signpost you in the right direction. Having support won't take the pain away. It doesn't take the pain away, but what it does is pain has such this horrendous build up, and that loss and that grief and that anger and everything, all these horrendous things that we have to go through and experience as part of this awful struggle and journey. I hate the word journey too, but I can't come up with anything better right now. If you're struggling and you're out there and you're on your own and you don't have that support, whether you are a mum or a dad or even a family member, please, please just connect with somebody. I know how dark times can get. I know from personal experience how sometimes, you know, particularly in the early days, you don't want to wake up in the morning. You don't want to be here. You'd rather be with your baby, wherever that baby might be. Please don't struggle on your own. As I said, we can't take away the pain or the loss, but what we can do by sharing that pain and sharing that grief is to release some of that pressure. You know, depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of these things are our body, and I speak as a biologist, all of these things are our body's way of saying we're not able to cope with this. Nobody can cope with a trauma of this level on their own. So please, please, for me, for Sam, please just connect with somebody. I know, you know, I know how hard it gets, but just reach out, and there is help out there. So for day 14 of Sam's Advent Calendar, I really hope that if this just reaches one person that makes a difference, then Sam, you know, wherever you are, hopefully we're doing something together that might help somebody.